We don't know what you're carrying. Hey, we've been in this series. I'm so glad Mom and baby are doing well. So glad you guys are here. If this is your first time here, make yourself at home because, is that today? I forgot, didn't I? All right, if you're in here and you're 12 to 17, our youth group is going to meet in the back. They usually meet on Sunday evenings, but I forgot today. So if you're here 12 to 17, and if you're close to that age, yes, go on. Slide out with Lucy and Chris, and I guess the other Chris is there somewhere. So if that's all right, they're going out. They surprise me every now and then and say, let's do it on Sunday morning. I'm like, okay. And I have the whole sound booth back here going, trying to keep my attention. Anyhow, we've been in this series called Worthy. And like I said, I believe it's catching on. There's absolutely, I know there's a difference in my worship and how I feel going into worship, Idra. And as we thought about that, we've talked about he's being worthy. And last week we talked about worthy as the Lamb and how, and we actually spent most of our time in Revelation chapter 5. And I thought about, all right, we talked about he's worthy. We talked about worthy as the Lamb. But then if we're going to look at he's worthy, being in the throne room and having throne room worship is one thing. But what happens when it gets immediate? What happens when it's, yeah, we all enjoy these times of deep worship and we enjoy these times. But what happens, Jody, when the storm is immediate and the darkness has a name? Has your darkness ever had a name? What happens when the storm's immediate, the darkness have the name, and the sickness has already taken everything that you had to give it, and you don't think that you can give it anymore? How do we still find him worthy in all of that? How do we find him worthy when death has already come? And then we have to ask ourselves, do we dare still at that point say, you're worthy? When it looks like everything else is lost and everything else has been taken and everything else has come up short. Today I want to look at just the measure of his worth and why, and some other things to answer those questions of is he worthy. See, we have to understand before worth can be bestowed upon anything, you've got to understand why he's worthy. And we looked at last week about him taking away the sin of the world, but there's other reasons why I find him worthy, Idra. There's things that I've gone through my life and there's things that I have faced that I'm like, man, you know, I think about just barely, not even 10 years ago, Ted, you know, I couldn't walk up the steps. Come on, some of you, I know most of you weren't here then. My knees were so bad, I struggled getting up and down the steps. And they wanted to do knee replacements. But God, they told me, you're going to have your tonsils out. I said, I am 50-some years old. I am not having my tonsils out. They said, well, you have to. I said, dude, I'm just telling you what I told the doctor. You can tell the doctor whatever you want. I said, everything I do revolves around my throat. I said, I preach, I teach, I sing, everything I do. I said, I can't go. And he said, well, I'm like, all right. And God gave me a dream. 2 days before that I was scheduled for surgery, God gave me a dream, and I spit my tonsils out in my hand in my dream. And Dee said, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to get up. I'm going to go to the doctor, but I ain't having surgery. She said, you're not? I said, I'm not going to have this surgery. God's going to take care of this. See, my tonsils were always so big, they almost touched in the back. They were always swollen. I would get strep throat 6 or 8 times a year. And they said, man, take these out. You'll be all right. And I'm like, but I had that dream where I spit my tonsils out in my hand. And I told Dee, I said, I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to see. I said, but I'm believing right now. God has told me I'm not going to have this. We went to the doctor. She was with me. She stepped out. And so he ran to the tube and he said, they want to take these out? I said, yeah. I said, buddy, he said, I'm not touching you with a 10-foot pole. I don't know if that's good or not. See, if you don't know what that means, you're not from West Virginia like I am. You get it, right? He said, I wouldn't touch you. He said, why? He said, your tonsils are so small, they're almost not even there. And that's just two that's happened in my life. That doesn't count everything else. And so one reason why I know he's worthy is because I know he rules. And I know what he rules over is the first thing we need to understand, and we're going to get to that a little bit more, is you got to understand that this king that we call worthy, this king that we've declared worthy, he rules over the entire creation. See, before authority can ever be given, you have to understand who it's given to. So what is this kind of authority? Authority is this. It's not raw force, Jody. Authority is not raw force, nor is it just mere strength. The word carries the idea of a rightful jurisdiction, the standing and the freedom to act, not just the power to do so. A king can only command what is rightfully his to command. Go to Mark chapter 4. Mark chapter 4. See, the first thing I know I can call him worthy is we have to realize what he is king over. He rules over all of creation. Mark chapter 4, verse 35. And he said, on that day when the evening had come, he said to them, let us go up across to the other side. Leaving the crowd, they took with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a cushion. Now here we are. You ever felt like that? You're in the biggest storm of your life. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know how you're going to face this. And everything, it looks like it's going to sink your boat. And you look around and wonder, where's God? See, that's what happened. The boat was sinking, and they said, where's God? Where's Jesus? Where is he at? And so they went and they found him. Man, you're asleep. We're going to die out here. And you're asleep? Verse 38 still. And they woke him and said to him, teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? You ever ask God that? God, do you even care that I'm dying out here? You even care that I'm going down? Remember the old cartoons? I'm sinking, going down for the third time. And we've asked God the same question. I know I have. I've asked God the same question. Man, do you even care that I'm out here? I'm sinking. Everything's going wrong. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket, and I'm going with it. And I'm trying to figure out why in the world you're asleep on me. The teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea. He wakes up, rebukes the wind, and said to the sea, peace, be still. Peace, be still. Man, I don't know, somebody in here might be going through that kind of storm right now where you need God just to stand up and speak to the wind in your life, saying, shh. Speak to the storm that's about to sink your boat, going, peace, be still. You see, only the one who has control over creation has the right to speak to creation that way. We don't have that right to speak except through him, through the name that's been given to us. But he himself, he didn't have to ask anybody. He didn't have to invoke anybody's name because he is the one. And he's worthy because even the winds and the waves obey him. And he said, and the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And then he said to him, why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith? Why are you so afraid? I wonder if he'd look me right in the eye today, Don, and say, why are you still afraid? You don't have faith? You can believe for all this other stuff? You do realize the greatest thing you'll ever believe for, the biggest step of faith you'll ever take in your life was the day you said yes to salvation. Everything else should be easy. You say, well, why? Because you took a step of faith to trust a God you couldn't see, to trust a God you couldn't feel, You felt something. To trust a God who says that I will keep you from going to hell into going to heaven, and you have never seen either, other than the fact you feel like you're living through hell right now. And then you believe that when you die, that you're going to leave this place and you're going to go to another world. And there's going to be a city in that realm with streets of gold and gates of pearls and all. See, we get all excited over this. How crazy does that sound? How absolutely nuts do you sound? You say, I don't have faith. You've got faith to believe all of that. But yet when the little things in life start coming at us, come on. We're like, oh, I don't know. I'm so afraid. I don't know if I can get through this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know what I'm going to do. But yet we'll believe. Come on. And he looks at him. He said, you've been with me all this time. And he says, why are you still afraid? Why do you still not have faith? Look at verse 5. Is that where I'm at? No. Verse 41. And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, who then is this that even the winds and the seas obey him? You know what terrified them more? Not the waves and the wind. It was the realization of the one who controlled. He said they were filled with great fear. We're going to look at that word fear in a little bit. And I want you to look at the rebuke that Jesus did. He didn't say, well, I hope this works. He didn't say, rebuke means this. It means it's an authoritative command in order to restrain. To silence, to stop, to bring under control. It's not merely verbal correction, but an exercise of authority that demands immediate obedience. This is what Jesus is. This is who he is. This is not one who just says, I'm going to put this out there. When Jesus steps into the storm of our life, when he steps into those things and he offers a command, it is a command that must be immediately obeyed. And whatever you ask in my name, if we have faith in who he is, we have faith in the one who understands that all he has to do is open his mouth. An immediate obedience has to happen. See, what happened to these guys, and I think what needs to happen with us, is they climbed into the boat with their teacher. They climbed out of the boat with their God. They understood he was a great teacher, but man, they just saw the winds and the waves calm at just the utter of his word. They got in the boat with their teacher. They got out with their God. They began to see him in a whole different light. Man, what are we waiting on? What are we waiting on when we're going to absolutely quit seeing him as just our Savior and start seeing him as the one who says to whatever we're going through, he didn't scream at the wind. Because why? Because when you know you're in authority, you don't have to scream at nothing. When you understand you walk in real authority, you don't have to scream. Jesus didn't have to scream at the wind. He didn't have to scream at the waves. He just said the command and knew that it must immediately be obeyed. Man, imagine if we would, like I said, roll out the carpet and let the King come in who has the authority. Psalms 104. Look at Psalm 104. We're going to read a lot here, so I'm not going to stop a lot. Psalm 104. And he set the earth on its foundation, that it should never be moved. Let that sink in, because I know we're waiting for this world to blow up and us to get off it. And he set the earth on its foundation, that it would never be moved. You covered it with the deep, and as a garment, and the water stood above the mountains. At your rebuke, the mountains fled. They fled. At the sound of your thunder, they took flight. The mountains rose and the valleys sank down to the place that you appoint. See, this is the God you serve. This is who you serve. That the mountains went to where he told them to go, And the valleys went to where He told them to go. Even creation itself rearranges itself at the sound of His voice. Imagine if we would just let that voice in. That the things that's going on in our life would rearrange themselves based on the word that He speaks. He said in verse 9, He said, you set the boundaries that they may not pass, so that they may not again cover the earth. You make springs gush forth in valleys, and they flow between the hills. From your lofty abode, you water the mountains. The earth is satisfied with the fruit of your work. You cause the grass to grow for the livestock and the plants for man to cultivate, that it may bring forth food from the earth, and wine to gladden the heart of men, oil to make his face shine, and bread to strengthen his heart. And the trees of the Lord were watered abundantly, and the cedars of Lebanon that He planted. Verse 19, He made the moon to mark the seasons, and the sun to know its time of setting. Do you understand that the God that we serve, that we call worthy, told the mountains where to stand, told the valleys where to be, told the waters where to go? That the God that we serve, that we utter His name so flippantly. What do you mean we utter, oh God? Do you realize at the mention of that name, Jesus, we're scared. Jesus, we're mad. Jesus Christ. Do you realize that name that we use so flippantly, that in the mouth of the one with faith to act on it is the very breath that told the mountains where to go, told the valleys where to be, told the moon keep track of the season, and said, sun, you'll set at this time, and you'll go down. You'll set at this time, you'll rise at this time. And they just automatically obey that. And we use this name like it's a byproduct in our conversation. Oh, that's free because I didn't know I was going to go there. We use it like it doesn't mean anything. It's a name above all names. We've sang about it all morning. Verse 30, same chapter. He said, you send forth your spirit. When you send forth your spirit, they are created, and you renew the face of the ground. May the glory of the Lord endure forever. May the Lord rejoice in His works, who works on the mountains, who looks on the mountains and it trembles, who touches the mountains and they smoke. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. I will sing my praises. Folks, this is God's resume. This is the God you... How can I call Him worthy? Why do I get so beside myself? Why do I get so twisted up when worship comes? It's because I start thinking of stuff like this. And when I see Him for who He is, my goodness, every little thing that I have built up and made so big in my life, all of a sudden now, it just doesn't seem. This is God's resume of creation. And centuries later, God, wrapped up in a skin suit, was woken up when He was trying to take a nap. You notice the storm didn't bother Him. And the Word says, as He is on the earth, so are you. So when are we going to quit letting storms bother us? The storm didn't bother Him. He was conked out, sleep, took a good nap. It was when fear came in on them, they began to panic. This is the resume of God. Sun, moon will do what I tell it. Mountains will do what I tell it. When I look at the earth, it shakes. When I speak to the mountains, they tremble. And I have given you this name to use. He didn't ask the sea to be calm. He declared it. This is not a prophet borrowing power. This is the author stepping back in the book. And when he steps back in the book, everything starts to get rewritten. Why are we so afraid? What's got us afraid? Well, you don't know what's going on in my life. You wasn't going down in the ship. Man, there are times, Debbie, there are times when this just, I know I'm walking in this. And then there are times when I'm absolutely one of the disciples, scared to death, thinking he's asleep and not remember me. See, this is why we get afraid when we think about death. Because we don't know the one that has power over death. I'm going to get there in a minute. Or authority over death. Dee and I don't ride roller coasters anymore. Anybody else with me? Okay. I'm not afraid of them. But we were at Kings Island years ago. The kids, Reese wasn't even born then. We got on this one. It's one that you let your feet dangle and the thing comes down, closes over you. As soon as this thing takes off, the thing that comes down over you on mine went. Nobody enjoyed this ride, I'm going to tell you. Everybody's screaming, and I'm trying to buckle this thing, and they can't do it, and everybody on there screaming, stop, stop! And I took my hand, and I reached through Dee's, and I pulled in, and I held myself while this thing flipped and turned, and I held myself into this roller coaster. And in that moment, I wasn't afraid. She was. I didn't become afraid, Joey. Why? Because I started realizing the one who brought me here is the one who will take me home. And it wasn't time for me to go home. We were on a plane just 3 years ago. You all have heard this one. When it dropped out of the sky, through the airline attendants and everybody to the ceiling. I mean, it was one of those good ones. He never got afraid. Why? Because I know the one. Now, I don't do it right all the time. I'm giving you my highlights right now. Because there are other times when I'm going, hey, God, you're asleep on me up there. I know you are. But man, when we understand the one who has the authority over creation itself, over the very earth, who speaks to winds. Psalms 95 verse 1 said, oh, come, let us sing to the Lord and make a joyful noise. To the rock of our salvation. Let us come into His presence with thanksgiving and let us make a joyful noise with songs of praise. This is why whatever time we give Him up here, this is why it should be loud. Well, I believe it should be real quiet and solemn, and it's not Scripture. He said, let's make a joyful noise. Let us shout. Let's make Why? Why should we do this? For the Lord is great, is a great God. And He is a great King above all gods. In His hands are the depths of the earth. At the heights of the mountains are His also. The sea is His, for He made it, and the hands that formed a dry land. Oh, come and let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before our Maker. He is worthy because creation is His. And it does exactly what He tells it to do. Not only is creation His, but the things you can't see are His. The very unseen things are His. There was the sea. All right, so He said, calm the seas. Jesus gets out of the boat and steps into a whole nother storm. He gets out of the boat, and there's a man running around naked. That's a whole different storm right there. Man gets out of the boat, running around naked, and they said that they had done everything to try and contain this guy. They've tried chains, they tried fetters, they tried everything. But you know what happens when darkness stands before its king? Go back to Mark. Mark chapter 5 again. Whew. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before Him. We were in an airport in Trinidad, and I'm sitting there. We're waiting on a plane. We had been down for about 10 days in Trinidad, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden I get this feeling. And in a minute, I get another feeling, and it's Greg. Greg comes over and just sits down right beside me. And he said, yeah, he said, you see it? I said, yeah, I saw it. And there's this, only thing I could say, Ruth was there, Marcy was sitting there. This lady had a demon all over her, and she's circling me. Wasn't she? She was murmuring, trying to, and circling me, and I'm like, God's got this. So Greg's over here, he's going to take him out. I had no worries. So we're sitting there, and all she did, and finally, we just started praying. Ruth was praying, Greg's praying. We just started praying, and she went away. But 3 days before that, we did an outside crusade, and there was a whole bunch of people who didn't normally came out. They came out. So we broke off and was praying for people on the street. And this little guy came over and said, come over and talk to me. And he said, you know, you're the reason we're all out here tonight. I said, okay. And he said, we're going to stop. What's going on? I'm like, isn't that what I told you? I said, okay. I said, can I pray for you? He said, yeah. I'm like, okay, good. So I start praying for this guy. Man, the next thing I know, he gets up, starts cursing, and takes off and trying to put curses on me. It didn't faze you. See, when you understand the one who was worthy, you understand what this guy did. He fell to, now this is a demon-possessed person. He ran to Jesus and he fell down before him. Go ahead. And crying out with a loud voice, he said, what have you to do with me? Jesus, Son of the Most High, I adjure you by God, do not torment me. You want to know why we praise him like we do? Because even the demons beg for their life when they stand in his presence. And he said, whatever you ask in my name. Man, you realize that the moment you utter that name, the moment it passes your lips, man, we declare him worthy because even hell itself has to bow. And Jesus asked him and said, well, first, verse 8, for he was saying to him, come out of the man, you unclean spirit. And Jesus said, what's your name? And he said, we are legion, for we are many. Notice who identifies Jesus. The disciples had just seen him calm the storms with his word. But who identified him as God was a man full of unclean spirits. And they called him Son of the Most High God. And they begged him not to use the authority that he had on them. Can you imagine? When you walk into the room, everything changes. And darkness starts to tremble at the light that you bring. And the word says he's in you. Do you realize what happens when you walk into a room? Because you're the carrier of him. You carry his presence. You carry his power. You have the Holy Spirit on the inside of you. And we see these songs like, oh, wow, that's a pretty little song. No, do you understand that we are actually declaring when you step in the room, everything's about to change. Man, when we walk into a place and we bring God's presence with us, we need to understand everything's about to change. Every step you take is an exciting adventure. If we only trusted him. Mark chapter 5, verse 15. Jesus cast the demon out. They go off into pigs. They jump in the river. They drown themselves. In verse 15 he says, and when the people in the town came, they saw the demon possessed. One who had the legion. Look what he's doing now. He's sitting there, clothed and in his right mind. and they were afraid. Now let's address this fear and this afraid because it's been mentioned twice. It's the word. It doesn't mean fear as in... It means to be overcome with fear, awe, or reverence because of encountering an overwhelming power, authority, or divine presence. That's what I've been praying for this church, that we walk in and encounter an overwhelming, that awe just stirs all over the room. That this kind of fear, this kind of reverence, this kind of, it goes on, it says, it describes a response of profound alarm that arises from recognizing a reality far greater than yourself. One word. One word. Look at Colossians chapter 2, verse 15. I know I've got the other verses up. Just skip down to verse 15, Bob. Verse 15, he says, and he disarmed rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in him. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 14. So you've got to understand, this is why we count him worthy. This is why we worship the way we do. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 14. And since therefore the children share the flesh and blood, he himself partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is the devil. That word destroy is a funny word. It means to render powerless. We think destroy, we think, you know. But that word destroy actually means to render powerless. So he conquered the enemy, then he made him powerless. And you know what we teach our kids? Oh, don't do that. The devil will get you. We have been put, and our religion has done it, our teachings have done it, Kevin. All of this has put power into the hands of an enemy that has been rendered powerless by the hand of the one that's worthy. We have put power into the hands of an enemy that the one who is worthy has rendered powerless. How dare us? Imagine if we had raised up a generation that's not afraid of him. Imagine if we had raised up a generation that'll look the enemy in the eye and say, you have nothing on me. You have nothing here. There's nothing you can do. I already figured it out. The one that's worthy has already made me overcomer. He's already made me a triumph. He's already made me a king and a priest, and I'm in a kingdom, and I have no fear. Imagine if we had raised up a generation that has no fear of the enemy. But you got to teach them who's worthy first. That word, it means render powerless, ineffective, inoperative. To deprive someone or something of its force, authority, or influence. He has taken the force, the authority, and the influence away from the enemy. So why are you still afraid? I had a dream one time that I was running from a giant snake. I don't like snakes. If you do, good for you. But I don't. But I had a dream one time that I was walking, that I was running from this giant snake. And when I say giant, it was bigger than me, and it's snapping. So I'm on a run, and all of a sudden Jesus is with me. He says, "Where are you running from?" "A snake." You don't see that? I said, "Snake." He said, "Stop and turn around and look at it." So in my dream, I stopped. Sandy and I turned around and looked at it. It didn't have teeth. It was big, but it had no teeth. And I looked at him and said, "It has no teeth." And he said, "Because it has no power." See, when something has been rendered powerless, you're not afraid of it anymore. And all of a sudden, and he said, "Now look at it again." When something has been rendered powerless, you're not afraid of it anymore. And Jesus turned to me in my dream and said, look at it again. And when I turned and looked at it again, it was about this big. Because what you fear, you give power to. And the one who is worthy has made you a conqueror, has made you an overcomer, has made you a king, has made you a priest. The one who is worthy has transferred his authority to you, and you now face an enemy. He said, now pick up your foot and step on it. Why are you so scared? He is worthy. Lastly, He commands the creation, He commands the unseen world, and He commands sickness and disease. When you walk into the room, sickness starts to vanish. And every hopeless, do you think I picked that on by accident this morning? And every hopeless situation ceases to exist. When you walk into the room, the dead begin to rise, for there is a resurrection life in all you do. Mark chapter 5. 12 years. 12 years. She's been bleeding. 12 years she's been sick. 12 years every doctor she could imagine. 12 years every remedy they could come up with. 12 years and getting weaker every day. 12 years. Some of us won't last 12 minutes when it gets tough. So there's one day she's sitting at home. And we pick it up in verse 27, I think. And she had heard reports about, see, this is what this is today. This is a report. And what you do with this report is up to you. What you do with this one who is worthy is up to you from here. This is just a report. She heard reports of Jesus and came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, if I just touch even his garments, I'll be made well. She finally became convinced that the reports that she heard about Jesus was true. Like Pastor Ted says on Wednesday nights a lot, let's just pretend that the Word is true. Let's just pretend like we're really going to believe this thing. And she said, if I can just touch his garments, if I can just touch the hem of his clothes, I'll be healed. And immediately, see, when he walks into the room, he's worthy because when he walks into the room, everything changes. And immediately the fountain of the flow of blood dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Sickness bows to this name. But here's the thing, still in Mark chapter 5, the reason Jesus was on a journey, there was a man came to him and said, hey, I've got a kid sick at home. Will you come and touch her? So Jesus is going to this guy's house when this woman gets in the way. Imagine being this guy. My kid's going to get healed. Jesus is coming to my house. We're going to have a party here in a little bit. Everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be fine. And then all of a sudden, here's this woman getting in the way. And Jesus stops, and he's dealing with her. Can you imagine what Jairus is probably thinking? My house. Remember my kid. Remember my problem. Remember my bank account. Remember my sickness. Remember my kids. Remember my trouble. Remember my issue. Remember my thing. Isn't that what we do, Jesus? We see Jesus doing stuff for people all around. We're sitting back here going, wait, you were coming to my house, remember? I see you doing something for everybody else. What happened to me? I know, nobody's ever felt that way but me. Verse 39. No, don't go 39. While he's watching Jesus heal this woman, one of his servants come up and says, just leave him alone. she's dead. It's too late. Folks, let me tell you something. When you know the one who is worthy, you know the one who's never, never, ever, ever too late. Even when they've already rolled the stone in front of the tomb and you're ready to bury that thing and call it over, He is the one who will say, open the tomb up, roll the stone back away, because I still have a word to say on this matter. He still has a word to say on this matter. Don't bother Him anymore. So Jesus says, what's wrong with you? She dead. You got sidetracked helping everybody else. My hope's dead. So He says, let's go on to your house anyhow. Because there's still something else to do. Verse 39. And when He had entered, He said to them, And when He entered, He said to them, why are you making such a commotion and weep? I wonder if God ever looks at us and says, what are you crying about? Why are you making all this noise? Gosh. Yes, in my idea, Jesus said, gosh. Why are you making this commotion? The child's not dead, but sleeping. And they laughed at Him. You know why? Because they had seen death before. They knew what death was. They knew when it was over, and you might as well just throw in the towel. How many times somebody ever told you to just throw in the towel? Just stop believing for it now. Stop hoping for it now. Give up now. It's already over. Throw the towel. He said, she's not dead. She's just asleep. And they laughed at Him. I like what Jesus does here, though. You got to be careful in your life of the people that's around you. Because they'll be the ones who try to convince you to throw in the towel. You know why? They've never seen God move big anyhow. Somebody told my wife one time, said, I just don't want you to get disappointed. You trust God too much. What? Is that not what they said to you, babe? Said, you trust God too much. Sometimes you got to do what Jesus did here. He put all of them outside. Remember when Job's wife, she said, hey, just throw in the towel, man. Give up, curse God, and go ahead and die. The kids are gone, your money's gone, the animals are gone, you've got boils all over you. Go ahead, throw in the towel now. He said, shut up. You're talking like a fool. Sometimes we got to do what Jesus did. And He put them all outside. And He picked the two who were willing to stand. He knew the mother and the father would stand for the resurrection of their baby. And He took the mother, and took the child's father and mother and those who were with Him, His disciples. And He went in where the child was, and taking her by the hand, saying to her, Talitha cumi, little girl, I say to you. See, why do we worship the way we do? Because He's worthy. Even death answers when He speaks. Little girl, I say to you, rise. And immediately, the girl got up, began walking, for she was 12 years of age. Isn't it funny? She was 12. And then just on his way to her house, a woman who had had issues for 12 years. You might want to look up that number. They were immediately overcome with amazement. Death knows what He looks like. Sickness knows what He looks like. So the question this morning is this: is He still worthy? Well, when you understand creation knows Him, the demons know Him, death knows Him, sickness knows Him, and they all bow. They all bow at His feet. And every domain that terrifies you has already answered the question. He's worthy. Every domain that is going to terrify you. And worthy isn't a name He asked for. It's a verdict creation keeps putting on Him. So you have to ask it for yourself. Is he worthy? I want to say yes. This is just a report, and what you do with it, it's up to you.